And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of the day it is that you're watching. Welcome to another special edition, because they always are, but this one is especially special, so to speak, a
Mm,
special edition of
yeah.
Conversations with Curtis. I'm Curtis Davenport, and as always, on behalf of the Jazz Room, I'm excited when we get an opportunity to sit down with some
Mm,
of our artists. And this one, have to admit, carries a little special meaning for us
mm,
because the gentleman that I'm about to spend some time with, who you'll see here in the Jazz Room on October 10th and 11th, for us, and hopefully for him, it's a homecoming,
mhm.
as he will be returning to us here at JazzArts Charlotte, or JazzArts Initiative as it was back in those days. And so we're going to be very excited to welcome back the acclaimed Grammy winning pianist, as he is known in the world now, Luther S. Allison.
Yes,
So,
indeed.
Luther, or Sam, so good to see you again. And how are you? And thank you for spending a little time with us tonight.
Yes, thank you for the beautiful introduction. I'm doing really well. Just finishing up a rehearsal here in Brooklyn and
Okay.
wanted to step aside and be able to have a talk with some of the folks from my hometown. So I'm looking forward to getting into some things.
Okay, getting into some things. Yeah, well, we will have it ready for you here over at the Booth Playhouse when you arrive here. So let's
Mm,
talk, because we've got so much to talk about in so little time. We
yeah.
can talk about I Owe It All to You, of course, your debut album,
Mm,
a lot of
yeah.
the work that you've done along, your travels with some, I almost said with Simone Biles, but that goes, your travels with Samara Joy
Right.
and others, yes. So, but let's start getting back to humble beginnings, or so to speak, when
Hmm.
you first were exposed, I guess, to Jazz Arts Initiative, as we were then. Tell us a little bit,
Yeah.
Sam, about how you first became involved with us here at Jazz Arts.
Yes, sure. It always feels so good when I hear Sam. It's like I'm home again anytime I hear
Oh.
that. Um, so I was attending Northwest School of the Arts on Beatties Ford Road. Um, and I had a classmate by the name of Claire Lucas, and she was playing bass. I don't know where Claire is these days. I don't know if she's still in Charlotte, but she was a good friend of mine in high school. And she said, "Hey, I'm a part of this local jazz organization. It's much newer. It's only been around for a couple years, and we're looking for a piano player." And at the time, I was actually in choir with Claire, the person who recommended
Mhm.
it. And so I said, "Yeah, sure, I would love to look into this." All of my training on piano was classical. And I definitely did express some interest in wanting to study jazz and some other styles of music. So what happened was my father went to the first rehearsal because I couldn't make the first one. And he went and just checked it out to see if he thought it would be a good fit. And the following week, I came back with him and was able to sit into the rehearsal and feel things out. And the band was incredible. It was Stuart Karen on bass.
Yes.
Clara Lucas was also playing bass. Quinn Bannon on drums. I think he might be in Nashville now. I know he finished school over there, if I'm not mistaken. And the late and great Stephen Ray on guitar,
Yes.
who was a
Even
very,
right.
very close friend of mine who I learned so much from. I just saw his father recently, ran into him unexpectedly, and we had a beautiful conversation. But Stephen, it was like a big brother to me. So shout out to the late Stephen Ray, who really impacted
Absolutely.
so many lives. Um,
Yes.
but that was kind of my introduction, and I came in and I felt like I was miles behind everybody because
Mm.
I played classical. I kind of did too much. I was doing classical piano. I was playing jazz saxophone in the school band at
Mm.
Northwest. I was also in the concert band on alto sax. But
Okay.
my main instrument was really a little more drums.
Yeah.
Um, so you kind of have all of these different worlds uh, of artistic expression that I was beginning to explore. And so getting to jazz arts and being around people who had been focusing on this style of music for so long and so intensely, it was intimidating to me. I felt far behind.
Mm.
So it was beautiful being able to be around people who were very willing to teach and to listen to me, and to help me. I had so many incredible instructors and peers that were there. So I'm incredibly grateful for that time and that space.
Yeah, and I have to say, as
Mm.
just shared briefly just before we went on there, it was the first time I got to hear you not too long after I became involved with Jazz Arts
Mm.
Initiative, as we were then, and
Yeah.
came across at the holiday concert that year and just
Oh
was
yeah.
knocked out then at that time. I mean, cranky old man that I am, it's hard to impress me, but you were on piano that day, and I stopped and I said, don't know who this young man is, but he's got it. So, and
Thank
I
you.
love it when I'm right, So
Hey, there it is.
glad to hear that. Let's not now. You talked about, and I know when you started doing some work, a lot of work for Positone Records before I Owe It All to You
Yes.
came out. I started seeing
Yeah.
you on a few dates there, but it
Yeah.
was often on drums, and so I was a little
Yeah.
surprised. Wait a minute, is this the same Luther Allison that we know on drums? And
Yeah.
it sure enough was. So, but you
Yeah.
said drums was your first instrument. What attracted you to the drums at first?
Yeah. I don't know. It felt like people always say this, and it might sound corny, but it almost felt like it chose me because
Okay.
I remember going to school and beating on the desk that like the way that it sounded when I would play drums on the desk. So I remember going to the grocery store and if we would leave church and go to Harris Teeter or Food Lion, I would tap dance on the grounds. I just loved rhythm. I felt like I was
Hmm.
always drawn to rhythm. I always had to hit things and beat on things everywhere I was. And so it was something that my parents noticed early on and just supported. They saw this passion and this desire, and they said, "Well, let's invest in this and see what can happen." Um, and as I continued to play drums, my teacher said, "Hey, he should be exposed to as many instruments as possible early. So get him at a piano, get him on hand drums, get him doing whatever he can." And so it might have been roughly 4 or 5 years later when I started taking classical piano lessons. And I was doing that until about high school and really doing classical lessons until I joined JazzArts Charlotte, JazzArts Initiative at the time. So yeah, it's kind of a brief story, drums and piano.
Hmm. Okay. Well, it's very impressive that you've gained such proficiency on both instruments that we can
Yeah.
find you all over recording. Do you have any plans? I know you mentioned saxophone in there as well. Any plans to hear you on saxophone anytime soon?
Probably no time soon on sax, but I love
Okay.
sax. Funny enough, in high school, I feel like in high school, that was where my heart was, even more so than drums and piano, because I was playing so much saxophone between the jazz band and the concert band. So I would go in the stairwell or the hallway at Northwest, and I would just practice for hours. Because by the time I was sophomore, junior year of high school, I was taking the city bus to and from school. So I would say I'm just going to stick around here and practice for another 30 minutes or hour before I got to get home, so my folks don't have to deal with me, causing all this
Yeah.
noise and commotion in the household. So
Very
it kind
kind.
of worked out. Yeah, I was able to figure it out a little bit.
Speaking as a parent, you were very kind, and I speak for all parents. We appreciate when you have that opportunity. So
Absolutely.
let's skip ahead a few years. We'll go to your time at University of Tennessee, and you were mentored at that point by the great, and I don't use that term lightly, the great Donald Brown.
Yes,
One
indeed.
of the
Oh
yes,
yeah.
oh yeah, outstanding pianist. I'm a big fan of his work for so many years. Let's talk a little bit about what you might have learned from Mr. Brown. I know there's so many things, but if we can get it down into a few things that you might have learned from Donald Brown while at Tennessee.
Yeah. Oof, man, I don't even know where to begin. Mr. Brown really definitely he definitely changed my life. That was
Hmm.
somebody who represented so much within music and outside of music. Um, First of all, he's one of the most soulful people, one of the most
Yes.
soulful musicians that I've ever had the chance to be around. Um, he's also just the proficiency of his understanding in the blues, bebop, soul music, R&B music, gospel music. Um,
Hmm.
he's just incredibly well studied. Um, I feel like I learned so much about exploration, um, and how to deconstruct things and reconstruct them in a certain kind of way, in a very unique type of way. because he really has his own way of doing that. In regard to arranging songs or composing songs, um, he's truly just brilliant. He's a very effortlessly brilliant composer, pianist, band leader, sideman, educator, clinician, all the things. Um, Also, and one of the most important things I feel like I learned from Mr. Brown was not shying away from yourself and not shying
Mm,
away from your story in your playing. I think oftentimes
hmm.
you see people that maybe they come from the South, maybe they come from the church, maybe you come from a certain kind of background, and as you grow and see the world and are put in different situations and settings musically or just in life, there's times where you want to show these other things that you've learned and well, I can do this too, I can do that too. But sometimes people only really want that special, unique thing that you
Yeah,
got back in Memphis, Tennessee for Mr. Brown or
yeah,
Charlotte for me. And sometimes it's like, well, there's these other things. There's these other things here as well that I can do or that I want to show. Or Mr. Brown is very unapologetically just Memphis soul,
yes.
Stacks
That is
records. It's like
true.
in
Mm,
anything, even in hearing him with Blakey or hearing
oh
him
yeah,
with Winston or hearing him with Joe Henderson or hearing him with whoever, it's
mm,
like you still hear the Delta blues in everything he
yes.
does. He's never shying away from himself and what he came up on. So those are a
Hmm.
few things I learned from Mr. Brown.
Yes, and he's outstanding in
Hmm.
every way. And he also has said, and I'm going to share with our audience here, I think the admiration goes both ways as he compared you to another one of the greats of the piano. That is, he when he first heard you, he started hearing the great,
Hmm.
late, great Mulgrew Miller in
Yeah.
your
Whew,
playing. Yeah,
man.
how did that sit with you, man?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Whoa,
mean, it's
yeah,
insane. I feel like part of me is like, I don't deserve it because Mulgrew is one of my heroes,
yes, yes.
But for it to come from somebody who was a very close friend of Mulgrew's, both of
Hmm.
them being born in Mississippi, raised or and ended up moving to Memphis sometime later and spending a lot of time kind of being indoctrinated in the Memphis sound. Um,
Hmm.
it means so much. He knows what he's talking about. So even though I might feel undeserving. You know,
Hmm.
he knows better than I in that conversation. But yeah, Mulgrew is an incredibly huge influence on my playing. Um, Somebody I still check out and learn from to this day. And also another funny thing,
Yeah, yeah. Come on.
which makes that even crazier, when I was talking to my parents about colleges to attend, um, one of the schools that was one of my top schools at the time was William Patterson, and Mulgrew
Yes,
Miller was teaching
yes.
there
Hmm.
at the
New
time.
Jersey. Yeah. Hmm.
Exactly. And so I was at a certain point that was one of my top options, and, I ended up going to Tennessee. But it's also unique knowing, man, my freshman year, Mulgrew passed away, and
Yeah.
so I couldn't imagine the pain that the people who knew him closely at that time dealt with. And even if I were to come in having looked up to him so much and then not having him around anymore. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of crazy seeing how things were orchestrated, being able to study with somebody like Mr. Brown and the relationship he had to Mulgrew. Just everything comes together, and it's a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah. As you said, in
Mm.
Donald Brown, I mean, there is so much history just in his playing, and I'm sure in his
Yeah,
stories from Blakey, from the others that you mentioned there.
yeah.
So much learning there. Let's talk a
Hmm.
little bit about moving on. We're going to fast forward a few years to how you managed to get involved with our crazy friends over at Positone there.
Oh
So
yes.
how did that come to? And eventually it led to your outstanding debut album. But let's talk about how you made that connection to our friends over there.
Yeah, sure. So when I was a sophomore at University of Tennessee,
Mhm.
rising sophomore, I believe this is the summer of 2014, I came in contact with Michael Dees.
Yes,
And I'll try to get through this
great
quickly. So
guy.
Michael Dees ended up
You can take
recommending
your
me
time if you
to,
want. Go ahead.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
like a preacher. I won't be before you long.
Yeah.
30 minutes later, here I
Preacher's
get.
first lie. I know. As
Right,
one
right, right.
myself, man.
Exactly, exactly. So I met Michael Dees, and he had recommended that I um, come to Michigan State. I was actually recommended before this to be the drummer for the Brevard Jazz Institute, which happens every
Okay.
summer in my home state of North Carolina. So
Hmm.
anybody checking this out, check it out. Definitely come through. Bring your kids, or if you're of age, you sign yourself up. But it's an incredible camp that I've been able to be a part of since its inception, roughly 10 years ago, maybe give or take a year. Um, so I met Mike D's there. Um, I came to Michigan State shortly after for school, but even in between then, um, upon that initial meeting at Brevard, he told me after only 2 weeks of playing together, he said, "Man, I'm actually recording an album in New York City
Hmm.
in just a few months, and I would love for you to be a part of it on drums." And this was a huge surprise to me because, again, this was another situation. I feel like this was a consistent trend in my life where I've been putting in all this work, but there's a certain opportunity that comes up, and it's a preach that seems undeserving in spite of all
Yeah.
of this effort that I've put in.
Hmm.
And maybe I didn't have it in my mind to do that specific thing. But when that specific thing comes around, I don't feel like it's what I'm deserved, what I have earned, you know. Um,
Hmm.
but I
It's
still said
God's
yes.
unmerited favor.
Hey, there it is. Come on now, some
Hmm.
favor. And so,
That's it.
you know, I still said yes. I said, why not? I would love
Hmm.
to. And my initial thought wasn't, I don't deserve this. My initial thought was surprise and then excitement and then fear.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, wait a second. I just said yes to this, and
Hmm.
I'm probably going to be the worst one in the room. But how am I, I got to figure this out. So, that was my first ever recording session. I think I was 19. And that's how I met everybody, Mark Free and Nick O'Toole at Positone.
Hmm.
I went on to record a few more records with them, a couple others with Mike Dees, one with Diego Rivera, one with my good friend Marcus Howell. Um, and then that led to my first record date, which we recorded in, was it 2023, I believe, and released
Okay.
last year,
Hmm.
if I'm not mistaken. So
It was
yeah,
released last
that's
year.
yes. So that's kind of how that
I'm paid to
relationship
keep
came
up with that
together.
stuff. So yeah, it was last year.
Yeah. Right, right. There you go. Check my work, please. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's kind of how all of that came together with Positone.
Okay. All right. So that gives us, yes, and that was an
Mm.
intentional segue to talk about the album, to talk about I Owe It All to You. And as I
Yeah.
alluded to, folks, at the beginning, I have it here over on my other screen. So just so I
Mm.
wouldn't misquote it, Michael J. West, in that true,
Mm.
I guess, the true tome, the pantheon of jazz magazines, Downbeat,
Mm.
said this about
Nice.
your album. I'll just give you a little quote here. Listening to Luther Allison play piano is like watching Simone Biles do floor exercises. He turns effortless physics defying technical wizardry into evocative, involving art and never fails, to stick the landing.
Wow.
Sorry, I messed up that one word there. I was rolling, man.
It's
But
all good.
in any case, let's talk about I Owe It All to You. What came
Yeah.
about? Obviously, on the album, I mean, we
Yeah.
hear some of the, tributes to Donald Brown, a little bit
Mm.
of some of the others that were on the album. Little Stevie Wonder there knocks me
Yeah.
off my feet. And talk about, yes, a little Mabes also as well with Harold, a
Yeah.
little bit from Harold Mayburn as well. So talk
Yes,
about
indeed.
that album and how it came together, the song selection, and what made you choose what you chose to have on it.
Yeah. So when the opportunity came along uh, to record this with Positone, um,
Mm-hmm.
they just said, "Man, think about what you want this to be centered around." And
Mm-hmm.
just thinking of all of the music I had been studying, the musicians I had been studying, especially in that time in my life, the city of Memphis was highlighted, you know. Um, so players like Donald Brown, Mulgrew Miller, Harold Mayburn, Phineas Newborn, Charles
Mm-hmm.
Thomas, James Williams.
No.
These are names that were coming up that I
Yes.
was listening to their records and learning their tunes.
Mm.
And actually had a phone call with Donald Brown and said, "Mr. Brown, I'm just checking out some music and wanted to see if you had any other recommendations." of some other songs by these players. And he's actually the one who recommended There Before the Grace of. And
Hmm.
I feel like anytime he's recommended something to me, it's always something that pierces my soul. It's something that
Yeah.
ends up being so impactful on me after I listen to it. And I decided to record that one on the album as well. So
Okay.
the album is a bit of a dedication um, in a few senses. So one being my spirituality. I'm a
Yes.
devout Christian. I grew up in the faith,
Amen.
and it's something that I still practice consistently and fairly openly to this day. And so even the song "I Owe It All to You" um, was composed I think in my graduate studies, and I performed it first on my graduate recital. And it was essentially a dedication to Jesus Christ. It was
Mm.
really just me saying
Mhm.
thank you back to my Savior.
Amen.
Within more of a jazz idiom, I feel like there's a certain soundscape that we associate certain messages with. And
Yes.
so, even kind of wanting to say, well, what if I were to write a gospel song, but in the stylings of jazz?
Yeah.
Um, and
Hmm.
so even the beginning vamp, the lyric is the name of the song. I owe it all to you.
Hmm.
Did it. I owe it all to you. That's,
Hmm.
that's the lyric. And that's who it's to. And then as I performed it more, it kind of broadened to everybody who's invested in me throughout my life. So my mother, my father, my sister, all of my teachers, the patrons who were listening to the song at that time when I'm performing at any performance, I dedicate this to y'all for paying your hard-earned money to come in and be entertained by my band. Um, but yes, that was the inception of that song. So it's, essentially a dedication to Jesus, and it's a dedication to a lot of my heroes musically. Um, yeah, that's I owe it all to you.
All right. All right. So let's continue along that line now. When the folks who come out, since we talked about folks paying their money and coming out, we are hoping
Yeah.
and believing that a lot of folks will see this and then pay their money and come
Yes.
out to see you next month at your homecoming here in Charlotte.
Yes.
So, first of all, I know you're bringing your quartet. Who else is
Mm.
in? Well, I'm not going to ask how many of you are there in the quartet, the old Paul Tesman joke, but who
Yeah.
will be in the quartet with you?
Yeah. So I have a few great friends of mine. Holding it down on the drums is David Alvarez III,
Okay.
very close friend, incredible drummer. He actually did some touring with the Clayton brothers, John Clayton,
Hmm.
um, and his brother, late brother, who passed away just a couple years ago, I
Yeah.
believe, Jeff
Yes.
Clayton.
Yes. Yes.
He's also done some touring with Benny Green. He's played with quite a few people. Incredible player. And another good friend of mine on bass, Zwalaka Dumabella Pair. He
Okay.
actually tours fairly consistently with, I believe her name is Aruj Aftab. Hopefully, I didn't pronounce that wrong. But he
Okay.
also does a lot of touring and recording with Nduduzo Makatini, incredible South
Yes.
African pianist.
Yes.
But
Yes. He is.
Zue, yes, but Zue is going to be
Mhm.
joining me on bass. And on trumpet, one of my best friends, the great Brandon Woody from
Okay.
Baltimore, representing for Maryland. He actually was just recently signed to Blue Note Records and released his
All
debut
right.
album with them. And so Brandon is an incredible musician and very close friend of mine too. So it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful show, playing some original material, playing some standards, some arrangements. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Okay, we're looking forward to having you here. And man, I have more questions than I have time. So I'm trying to like get my
No,
last
you're
couple
good.
into a couple. I have to at least talk about, of course, you won the Grammy, and I admit sitting at
Yes.
home bursting with pride when you appeared with Samara Joy on the stage there at
Yeah.
the Grammy pre-show. And so tell me, let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the
Yeah.
experience of working with Samara. She is
Yeah.
the big name in jazz vocals right now. So talk about how you
Yeah.
came to work with Miss Joy.
Yeah, so it's funny. I think I followed her on Facebook or on Instagram
Hmm.
because I saw a clip of her singing. Sounded incredible as always.
Yes,
It was
yes.
just lifted straight off of a record and put on an Instagram reel. And
Mm,
so uh, I'd been checking out her stuff a little bit, and randomly I get an email from her manager at the time,
mm.
and he said, "Hey, Luther, it was actually to my Yahoo email. So I don't even know how he found this email because my main email is my Gmail. I don't even know why I still
Okay,
have a Yahoo, but that's another conversation for another day. But
okay. Yeah.
I get this email that says, "Hey Luther,
Hmm.
my name is such and such, working with Samara." His name Matt Pearson. He was working with her
Oh,
for a couple years,
okay. Hmm.
and Matt said, "Man, we have these November dates. We got your contact through some recommendations. Would love to see if you can make this run of shows." I said, "Yeah,
Hmm.
sure." And at the time, she had been going through a lot of different piano players. It seemed like she was just kind of exploring and experimenting
Yeah.
with the sound and um, seemed to enjoy just having different sounds, people contributing different things. So I was like, all right, I'll play this month and get back to my teaching gig in New York and my other gigs that are happening here. And fast forward to a few weeks after that run in November, um, I get another email from Matt. And he says, "Hey man, here's everything from now through May that we have booked.
Hmm.
Let me know what you can make." And I was like, "Oh,
Wow.
I guess I'm doing the gig now." So,
Yeah.
so that was an incredibly powerful experience. And then from there, being able to meet Samara and get to know her as a person, very beautiful
Yeah.
human being, beautiful spirit,
Yes.
very kind soul. Um, and it comes through in her musicality and in her
Hmm.
musicianship and her leadership. So it was beautiful being able to perform next to somebody who has a very similar outlook on life, very
Yes.
similar
Yeah.
um, in our faith as well. Just a lot
Yes.
of a lot of
Hmm.
overlaps. And I learned so much. I feel like doing anything with vocalists, um, those tend to be some of the most impactful learning experiences for me as a pianist, especially, or
Hmm.
even if I'm playing drums. There's just so many lessons to learn about touch on the instrument, um, about comping, accompaniment,
Hmm.
about uh, playing through different keys, support, arranging. There's just so many different things to learn from that. And I feel like that was one of the gigs I've learned the most on, I would probably say. And I was able to see the world with her. I was
Yeah.
already starting to do some touring but that was the first time just with a consistent band hitting the road internationally
Hmm.
and getting to develop a sound with the band. It was a beautiful experience. Very, very grateful for it. And it was crazy being at the Grammys. I remember being there and
Yeah.
I'm seeing people casually walk by. I was taking pictures somewhere and I get a bump. "Oh, sorry, brother. It's Wiz Khalifa." I'm like, goodness
Oh.
gracious. And then I round a corner and I see, it's just famous people everywhere.
Yeah.
And it was crazy being on the Grammy stage and being able to play and you see the
Hmm.
people in the crowd. It's like these are people I've only seen on my Spotify or in my dad's record collection or in my
Yeah.
CD collection. And now you're here watching me play. Like, why are y'all here?
Yeah.
So, and even being a part of a project to win a Grammy it was unbelievable. It's still something that I can't believe,
Mm.
So I'm super grateful for that opportunity. And I learned so much being on the road with her.
Okay. Little quick question. Where do you keep your Grammy?
So I have the certificate in it's actually kind of hidden. I got to get it framed and hook it up.
Okay.
But it's in we have a music room. My wife and I moved to a new place and our
Hmm.
third room is like all my music stuff. So that's
Okay.
my
That's where
my
you
man
keep.
cave. So I keep
Okay.
everything in there, tucked away.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
We coming to the end, but I'm going to kind of combine my last question, Sam, into, I guess, make it a part A and part B.
Yeah.
Talking, of course, to the young folks like you who came through or will be coming through JazzArts Charlotte program. I always like to ask artists, and especially since you
Right.
come through on a direct line, first of all, let's talk about something that you may have learned back in your days with Jazz Arts Initiative that stuck with you. And also,
Hmm.
now that you've been out there and your experiences, what's some advice that you would give to up and coming young musicians following in your footsteps?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. For the first half, as far as what I learned when I was in that program, um, just decency as a human being.
Hmm.
So like every single person that was a part of that, every educator, and this is unfortunately very rare. Um, every educator, every single student, um, all the way up to Lonnie Davis, like everybody was so sincere and kind, um, genuine. They had everybody's best intention at heart, um, considerate, and all of this went through the music as well. I feel
Yeah.
like I learned so much about not like leaving your ego at the door, leaving your pride at the door, and we all just come in, we're on the same playing field, regardless of if anybody knows more or knows less.
Hmm.
We're not worried about that. We're all here with the same goal of learning and getting better and growing this group and this unit. I felt I learned a lot about just relationship within an ensemble in a musical
Hmm.
setting. Um, I feel like I learned, and practically, I learned a lot of music. Being able to study with Michael Hackett, who was there at the time, I feel
Yes.
like I learned so much from him. Chad Lawson, Lavelle Bradford would come in every once in a while early on. Philip Wack, who's in LA, he used to come by
Yes.
every now and then. But having folks from around the city come in and work with us. It's beautiful and it's special. I feel like a lot of times you go to these camps and they fly everybody in from other places, which is great too.
Hmm.
I do that. I'm on the other side now. I'm the one going to these other places and teaching. But there's something about learning in your hometown from people who are also from or living in your hometown. You learn a lot about the sound and the soul of that city and the heart of that city. So
Hmm.
that's what I learned. As far as advice for current students, I would say always remember that your character surmounts everything.
Hmm.
Um,
That's good.
you know, you can be an incredible musician, and you can be an incredible musician and not be the best person, and still get a lot of work because
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's a business. If I
Yep.
want this to sound good, people are always worried about how good of a person you are.
Yeah.
That's just the way the world is. But there's something about being a good person that will result in sustainability in your career. I'm only 30 years old. My career could crash and burn next year. Prayerfully, it doesn't.
It won't.
But
We gonna stand and believe in that. You know. So,
yes, but I know we're short on time. But just to say, you know, I think from what I've noticed in this little bit of a career I have so far, and what I've even seen from a lot of my heroes, um, s- good character results in sustainability.
yes.
Um, Also, I'll say uh, there's a preacher in East Tennessee, Bishop C, who used to always tell me, keep the main thing the main thing. Um, and that's one of those things the OGs say,
Yeah.
and you kind of got to figure it out for yourself. And you
Yeah.
realize later, man, this holds a lot of weight. And in the moment, you're like, oh, obviously, of course. But then as you get a little older, it's like, man, well, what is the main thing right now? You start asking yourself those kinds of questions.
Hmm.
So, with that being said, I think, understanding, man, what's the main thing? Keep the main thing the main thing. Also, what is it that I need to be, and just more practically speaking, if you if you play trumpet, what do you have to be focused on as a trumpeter? If you play piano, what do you have to be focused on as a pianist that will result in you having a prosperous career? You know, for me as a piano player, especially for a younger musician, I would say focus on listening to a ton of music, find mentors, at least one or two, that you can ask questions to and be in relationship with. You can call, get together and practice with them, play with them, jam with them, go out to their gigs. Um, and also uh, learning repertoire, building repertoire. You know, it's great to learn solos. That's amazing. But building your repertoire, um, learning how to comp, and learning how to play in different keys. Those are all things I'll say, especially for younger musicians, worry about the soloing later. Let's focus on the architecture of the song.
Yeah.
And that's gonna also result in some longevity as well. So those are my little tidbits.
And excellent advice. Trust and believe it is. So, Sam, Luther Allison, Luther S. Allison, as the world now knows you. Good to see you again, always. Looking forward to seeing you on the 10th and 11th, and just can't wait to hear you at the homecoming that we're going to celebrate here for you at Jazz Art Charlotte.